Look at this caffeine I got going on. Isn't this great?
Seriously.
Good luck
He
sleeping
always
tonight.
hooks me up with the caffeine.
That's what I live off of, man.
Did you see, was that true about Sheetz saying that if you were working cashier, you had to have like a full set of teeth? Like they were not letting people.
Oh,
Was
I think
that
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is this a real thing?
Is that a real thing?
It was a real thing. Yep.
Are you guys messing with me?
No.
I'm so glad to hear that.
We're retaining that. No, but then they took it away because it was not like
Sensitive.
Yes.
What about the sensitivity of the customers have to stare at that shit?
Well, wait, no. Let's think about it. If we don't have healthcare that's going to cover dental, which any dental, even if you do have it, does not cover anything.
Right, exactly,
Like
yes.
you're lucky you get a teeth cleaning twice a
Correct.
year.
Yes.
Right. You have a crown that needs just like $1,000.
I hope I get some good insurance coming my way.
Really? I know. I think we'll have it by the end of the week.
That's fine.
But like,
The personal appearance clauses are not real big in corporate America, I hear.
well, then Sheetz needs to pay them so that they can have dental work done.
Boy,
I don't
here
know,
we
but
go.
Sheetz pays pretty well, from what I've understood. They pay a pretty high hourly wage.
Yeah, they do.
Would
the
it
real
be-
estate market doesn't pick up, I'll be over there knocking on the door, pal. Let me tell you.
I mean,
You got great teeth.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
being dead serious. Like Laura works as a emotional support teacher at the school district, and they make $14 an hour. She's working
Yeah.
with like mentally challenged kids all day long.
That's
and
hard.
Sheets makes $18 an hour.
that's a-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a while,
Yeah.
Target was 17, at least
Yeah,
during
My
the
daughter
pandemic.
was there.
So yeah,
I
so-
was making almost $18 an hour,
Yeah.
folding clothes
Yeah.
and avoiding being seen.
yeah.
Right,
Or
yeah.
stocking shelves or something. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, Sheetz did
And she
have
managed to get fired from that job now.
What?
What
Oh, wait.
What did you do?
that. No, wait, is that a Target?
Yes.
They're very strict. Like, if you can't cancel, you can't
Yeah, I
request
think
so many
that's what
days. They're
happened.
they're
Huh.
pretty strict
I
with
think
their
so. But then
with
again,
their
who
expectations.
knows? Who knows?
I do like Target.
I love Target.
Target is like the rich man's Walmart.
It is, but
It's like Kohl's
I just buy
is
stupid
the
shit
poor
on there.
man's.
I hate Kohl's.
Horns,
I hate
right?
Kohl's
Right.
too.
I miss
I don't even
Horns.
remember Horns.
I
Horns? What is
I
Horns?
love Horns.
Great
Was it
department
JF
store.
Horns?
I don't know this.
No.
No, wait, what was it?
Am I the youngest in the room?
You are.
How old are you?
And I'm never going to hear the end of this.
45.
49.
Yes.
56.
I miss those days when I used to be the youngest.
We're both 56.
You can just call me Junior
I'm
tonight.
57, so I'm older than you.
All right. You win.
I'm the oldest. And I was just telling him when him and I really kind of like developed this friendship like 5 or 6 years ago. I said to him, my life's so weird because when I was young, all I ever did was hang around older people. Mm-hmm. And then when I got older, as I went through the tapestry of life, now all my friends are younger than me.
Yeah.
It's so flippin' weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really hard is working with younger people, and you forget that they're that
Yeah.
much younger than you. I'm like, I'm old enough to be your
happens to
mom,
me a lot.
and it's like, oh, like I'm not
Yeah.
just a regular mom. I'm like a cool mom.
That's how
you
Emma
know,
is.
like,
And
but
our
you-
new attorney in our office, she's 26. And I'm like, I'm literally old enough to be your dad. Her dad's like a couple years older than me. I'm like,
Oh, the one girl, I'm like, I'm old enough to be your mom. She's like, I don't really want to hurt your feelings, but my mom's a year younger than you. And I'm like,
Fantastic.
and she said that to me today. And I, like, literally, that was a conversation today.
Was that
I'm
the
like,
first thing in the morning?
No, it was towards the end of the day. Like, we were talking.
So your
and-
day wasn't completely wrecked.
No, but, I'm reporting
neat.
to her to HR tomorrow.
just so your mom's
Age
not as cool as me.
discrimination.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
but, like, you forget, like, you can kind of talk to them.
Yeah.
But you forget that, like Goonies. When I did say, hey, did you guys ever see the movie The Goonies? My kids have seen The Goonies. They're like,
Yeah. It's a great movie.
I've still never seen it.
What? That's a good movie.
I've never seen E.T. either.
Oh, man.
I saw that one, but like I can't watch it now. I get bored with it, but I loved it when it came out.
Oh, I had an E.T. doll that I
Yeah,
carried around when I
same.
was a kid. Like,
Loved E.T..
I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
Like I do. Like it was like part of my childhood.
Yeah.
Like it was. I remember as a little kid carrying this E.T. doll around.
I had one
Yeah.
too. I had one
so
too.
bloody ugly. That's
Matter, man.
No,
E.T. phone home.
Oh, he was so sweet. Oh my God.
Yeah, I never watched that.
I tried watching the movie when they reissued it, and I was like, I kept falling asleep at the same part, and I'm like, it was just boring.
So we are going to start this podcast at some point in time. But as Rocco would tell you all, it just kind of like we just go. Before we get there, though, I have a question which will help me maybe, especially with you. It'll help me get a little clarity into the insight of your personality. And I can do it by asking you one question about one movie, and it's a simple question: did you dig the movie or did you not? And the question is, did you like and enjoy the movie Forrest Gump?
I love that movie.
And why?
It was just, oh my God, it was just every emotion. And when he's standing at Jenny's grave and talking to her, it was just this, oh my God, that's a fantastic. I just love it. The music was amazing in it.
Yeah.
It was just so, he was vulnerable. Like he was so clueless to people picking on him, and you just wanted to hug him, and just, I don't know. I just loved it. It just, the history parts of it, I really enjoyed that. You know, just how they took something that you knew from history, like when he's meeting the president and how they would do it, but then they put him in. It was just fun. And like how when he cleaned his face, have a nice day or whatever, and the shirts, like, it was just fun. It was fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my.
I like it. It was a feel good movie. That's how I look at it. It was just it had all the emotions to it, and it was just a movie you kind of felt good watching in the end. That's how the music was good, the story was good, but I just look at it like there's not one thing in particular that I remember from the movie that stood out. It was just the emotion of the movie itself. It was a feel good movie.
No.
You didn't like
I didn't like it.
Oh my God, what did you not like about it that I have to hear?
For me, it was, in a sense, that he was just a pawn for so many people, and I hated that.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting. I didn't look at it that way.
That's okay.
I saw him as resilient.
Yeah.
I saw him as resilient. Like, you know what, you can try and keep me down, but he keeps coming back, and he was doing him. He was authentic to himself. But that's an interesting perception.
Let me ask you this. Did you feel that way the very first time you watched the movie? Did you get it from the beginning, the first time you saw it, or did it take a while?
I've only watched it a few times, so the first time I watched it, I really liked the movie. I just thought it was a good. It was the emotional roller coaster, but in the end, like you said, he was resilient. It was like nothing else mattered except what he wanted to do. That's how I looked at it. That's kind of how I've always been. It's like, I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and it just resonated with me.
What about you?
That was back in the day when you'd go to the movie theaters,
Right, yeah.
right? My best friend and I, we paid, I don't know how many times to go see that over and over again, because it wasn't like streaming, right? I probably saw that in the theater probably 4 or 5 times. It was, I don't know, it just moved so well, and I don't know, like I just loved it. I just can't even explain it. Like I did see him as resilient. His mom's like, you know what? Nobody's going to tell you that you can't do something. And kind of like, you know, we tell our kids that.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell you that you can't do something. You're the only one who can tell you. And I think that's what she was doing. So it's interesting to have that perspective. Like, it's interesting to me because I just didn't feel. I think he was always underestimated for what he was capable of. And
Sounds
he
like
always,
the water boy to me.
Well, that's a good one too.
It's the same premise.
Sort of.
It is. The music isn't as good.
You can do anything.
Yeah.
But the music isn't as good.
Right.
And the mom's not as trashy, I guess, you know, like, you know. But no, like his mom's like, just keep going. Everything rolled off his back, and he was just successful regardless of people trying to hold him down. And it always came through. Look at what happened with Lieutenant Dan. He ended up coming back to him, like, you know, he was pissed at him. He was looked at him like he was an idiot, and finally came around. And, you know, there was that friendship there. Like, you underestimate somebody, but then at the end, you're like, you know what? I see the real person. And Jenny did take advantage of him.
Damn slut.
But she had issues. She had her own issues, and, you know, she had trauma. But, you know,
She was good looking, don't get me wrong. I mean,
but no, it's but that's like, I've never heard that perspective before, and now it's like I'm looking at it. Now I feel like I want to watch it.
did you see it in the movie theaters?
No, never in the movie
How
theaters.
long did it take before you saw it from the time it was released, roughly speaking?
1994 is when it came out.
Oh, it was some time.
Okay.
It was definitely some time.
Wow, 94. Wow.
1994, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw it on a date, and it was a great date until we got to the movie theater, and it was the first night. It was the first night. It was practically empty because if you remember, the movie didn't hit right away. It took a month before it caught wind, and then all of a sudden it became a phenomenon. But when it was first released, it wasn't anything to it. And we left after like the first 40 minutes because it's just, I didn't know where it was going. There wasn't all this media back then, so no one was giving you synopsis of what I'm supposed to be watching. And it just seems on the premise of fucking dumb. And then I was jaded, like, and then years later I would go back and watch it. And I kind of got it in some, but it just didn't. It wasn't leaving like an impression on me that so many people in my sphere, like you just articulate, you got it. And I would like, what's wrong with me that I don't see like the brilliance of this? I mean, I get he's a great actor. I get all of that.
Apparently that side of the table hates Tom Hanks.
Oh, so you don't like Tom Hanks? Is what the
I
real
like Big. I like a lot
hate
of
to
this
feel good, apparently.
stuff. It's just, well, yeah. I mean, and I love music, and I was, I got some of that, but it was '94, so the stuff in the '60s and the early '70s didn't have the same impact to me in '94 as it does today, because now I romanticize that period of musically. Back in the '90s, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I've been through it. I'm on to the next thing. So that didn't have the same soundtrack punch I think it would happen today. It just didn't do anything for me. It was like, and I just find it interesting when you ask people that question, because
well, you're both wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Off the races.
Yes. You're both wrong. Exactly right.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
It's an interesting thing.
No.
It's interesting. It's an interesting movie.
I just knew you were going to say Forrest Gump. Like
Really?
I just had this thing. I'm like, he's going to say Forrest Gump.
Really?
I'm like, yeah.
There's a lot of movies out there.
I know, but like,
I could have said Star Wars.
oh, that one.
It's a great movie.
I could have
I
said
No one better
I
talk
said-
shit about that movie.
Battlestar
No,
Galactica.
Well, that's not, no, don't even say that in the same breath, man. Come on.
E.T.
Yeah, exactly.
And then my initials are ETM, so people started calling me ET as a kid. I'm like, I'd be
it
walking the
off.
hall and I'm like, phone home. I'm like, what are you talking about? Leave me alone.
Do you
That's what I
know
mean.
you know it's not Phone Home? With the
Oh.
Mandela effect. There's I can't remember what it is now, but it's not Phone Home. Everybody remembers it as Phone Home.
Right.
But he says something different.
Of course he does,
Yeah.
because we're living.
Now I'm going to have to Google what he's
Google
really
it.
saying.
Yes, the Mandela
because
effect.
We're
I
living
never
in
knew
an
that.
illusion.
Yeah, exactly.
The world.
It's crazy. I went down those rabbit holes. It's like,
I'm sure you did. The world is a cartoon.
Retain that because you might need it for trivia night.
yeah. I mean, yes, you can't use your phones, which is bullshit. But
So, if we can, I'd like to talk a little bit about parenting tonight.
yeah,
Good times.
You know.
Good times.
it is a good time.
And we all have kids at different age, There's a little more parenting experience on this side of the table. Maybe not by much, but a little bit. I'm big on lessons. I love to hear people's stories and so forth. I love the humor, of course, but I love to hear lessons. And let's just cut right to the meat of it. Can we talk about lessons you learned through parenting? Whether it's about you, whether it's about kids, whether it's about society, whether it's how ass backwards our views are compared to what the kids do, whatever it is, but something that impacted you. Again, could be funny, could be horrific, whatever you feel like sharing. But I want to talk about lessons first.
You're in the hot seat, so you get to go first.
Well, like, I
The
wouldn't
new
say
member
it's
goes
per
first.
se a lesson, but the worst thing is to offer advice to a new parent of what, don't do this, don't do that. And I think my biggest lesson, and I hope I don't cry,
You're loud on this show.
when my children were younger, I'm a single mom now, but at the time, when I look back now after I became a single mom, my biggest regret, and I don't like to offer advice to parents, it's not my place, but I do offer this one. I'm like, all I'm going to say is it's really hard. You're going to be tired. But if your child ever stops you and says, Mommy, will you play with me? You drop everything and you do that. I don't care if your laundry needs done.
Yep.
I don't care if the dishes are piled up in the sink. And I don't care if you have to order a pizza 5 nights a week.
Right.
My biggest regret is, and I can still see their little faces, 2, 3, 4, Mommy, will you play with me? And I said, no, because your dad's on his way home and I have to get dinner, or I have to put this away so it looks like I did something all day, and just their little heads going down. So that breaks my heart.
Sure.
And whether they remember it or not, I remember it. So I do offer that advice to parents because that's the time that
Great
they
advice.
just want you.
It's great advice.
That's my lesson learned. And I don't like to give advice, but that is the piece I do offer to new parents. Like, just stop what you're doing. Everything waits.
And it's so
but they
hard,
won't.
too. New parent means, oh, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to be a new parent.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
They run your day. You don't make your schedule. Like, when you go to work is so easy. Like, when I would go to work, even as a parent, I'm like, oh, this is so easy because I can get all this stuff. You go home, oh, wait, you have to stop. You can't do that grocery run because somebody's taking a nap. You know, like,
Well, they run the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the younger they are, the more stern of a taskmaster they are.
Yeah.
You know? That's a good one. That's a real good one.
That's my...
That was unexpected. It was good.
Oh.
I'm looking at you, big boy.
Pat on my back. No.
So let me echo what you said, because the same thing I remember when my son was young. He would always want to sleep because he wasn't with me all the time. So he would always want to sleep in bed. And I would get frustrated, and I remember someone telling me someday there's going to be the last time he wants to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And that just hit me, and it was like, so then you just kind of just let it happen, and then there is that last time, that last time they do that, and it's like, wow, like, so it is like, appreciate those moments of those things that may seem like an annoyance, but they're not. They're really, because you don't get those moments back. Like, that's the first thing. But then the other thing is, like, I never realized, like, I had my son first, and I was in law school, and I didn't even know how to be a man at that point in time, let alone have a son. But then I never realized, like, how much someone could, like, steal my heart when having a daughter. Like, that was just like when Ellie came around, and then even Melina, it's just like, wow, like, it's just a totally different type of love. And it just, like, I'm wrapped around their finger, and I admit it. Like, to me, it's like you can't explain it to someone. And I remember someone telling me, "Oh, you'll love your kids the same but different, the same amount but differently." And I'm like, my son, I look at him like, he's grown up to be a man. I'm extremely proud of who he is and the type of individual he's become. But I look at my daughters, and it's so different, and it's just like, it kills me, and it's just like, wow, like, I don't ever want to see them hurt. If someone breaks their heart, I will kill them. Like, it's just this feeling you have, and I never thought I could be that big of a softie. And, like, literally, I'm like putty with them, and it's pathetic sometimes. But so I've learned it about myself. Yes, I don't have a heart of the shell as I think I do. So it's my lesson.
Lynn? She's like, which one do I reveal
Right.
here?
I raised 4. The youngest is quite old right now, but for me, I think I started as being that very strict, managing every detail, because I was a young mom, and I figured, I've got to present that my kids are okay, that I'm okay, that everything's okay, and I know everything. Well, that quickly comes to an end, but about the 3rd child, I realized I needed to empower them to make decisions. So I think my son wanted to wear plaid shorts and a striped shirt or whatever it was to school. And I had always picked out their perfectly curated outfits. And I just gave up that day. And I sent him off, and I thought, you know what? He's going to be made fun of, and he's never going to do it again. So you begin to empower them. So I think the biggest lesson that I learned is the more you empower them to make small decisions, when the big ones, the critical ones, the important ones come along, they'll do a better job at it.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine would be probably more specific to the circumstance I was in. So I was divorced from my children's mother when they were very young. And we very civil divorce and all that stuff, so there wasn't much drama. But I remember we quarreled about something. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was actually money. It might have been time or schedule or something insignificant. Probably my fault. Because things are generally my fault, right? So I'm a man, or generally our fault anyways, whether we did it or not. But it was, it probably was my fault. And I remember being really pissed at her, And I had my kids for these 2 days, and they're in my house. We're in South Hills, and the kids are over, and and I heard my son say, to me something, Daddy, Mommy says that your guitar business is the best and blah, 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 and all these complimentary things about me and this business fledgling business I was starting. And I'm like, wait, what? And then he repeated it. He goes, yeah, Mommy said this and this and this and this. And I'm like, and at that very moment, I realized right away that how dare I ever, no matter what the circumstances are, I ever give an insinuation that their mother was not the best at anything all the time in their eyes.
Yeah.
How I could even think, and I wasn't intending on saying anything negative to them at all, but I realized at that moment that how powerful their view of the world is to their development, and this petty bullshit that probably was my fault in that instance, a rare instance that we had any kind of discord. But at that moment, I realized, wow, I could really F this up. If I dare let my frustration come out in a negative way toward, their mother. I mean, what a terrible thing and terrible consequences. So there you go. It's pretty raw and real. But I remember having that moment like this. I just can never. And luckily, there was never any drama. It was really done well. We two divorced folks with little ones, raising them. I think we both should pat ourselves on the back. We did a pretty damn good job. But there was that moment where I had to realize it isn't about me. It's not about me. It's about them and their view of the world. And that's some advice I would give a young parent too, whether in a divorce or not, maybe a quarreling couple, right? They're living together. You don't take that stuff out in earshot of the children.
Yeah. No. They're always one thing I've learned about parenting is they're always watching. Like, it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do. And I mean, I have millions of examples of that, but I think I've said this before with Gabe. Like, when he was young, I remember I think he was like 13 or 14. I went to pick him up at his mom's house, and he was at an ice cream shop. So I was picking him up, and he was with a bunch of friends that were girls. And he comes on, he gets in the car, joking with him. I said, so who were you with? And he tells me, I'm like, oh, did you pay for them? And without him missing a beat, he said, yeah, of course I did. That's what a man does. And it was one of those moments where it's like, as a dad, like I never told him that, but he always watched. He always watched what I did. And like, I never said like, this is the way you treat a woman. This is the way you respect people. He just always watched. And then I see like my daughters now and like how they want to be lawyers and, they want to do these certain things. And it's just really, you don't realize it when you're in it until like you have to take a step back and almost zoom out and you look and you're like, wow, they are. What I say does not matter. What I do is the most important. Oh, yeah. And that is like that as a parent, I think is the hardest thing to deal with because we're all flawed. We're all flawed and no one's perfect. And I'm the most flawed man there is, but I have these 3 kids that are looking at me like I have to be the example. So it's like, it makes you question everything you do and really think through decisions. And am I making the right decision? I make wrong decisions all the time, but just being that good example of what a good human being should be. And that's like with Gabe, it was just like that moment was like, wow, like holy shit, like that really, it just hit me at that moment. It's like he's watching everything I do because he wasn't with me all the time. I had him on the weekends, like during the week one night, but even still, he just watched all the time.
It's what they do.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is.
Well, I have like more on the negative side of what my kids were seeing. Like I had asked for a divorce right around the holidays, and we were just trying to get through the holidays before we were announcing to family and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember my ex-husband there was no birthday presents for me. There was no Christmas presents. And it was just, it was such an inconvenience, right? Which is fine, whatever. And I always got my ex-husband something for Christmas, whether it was a Steelers t-shirt, but there was always something.
Right.
And, of course, that Christmas there was nothing there, whatever. But after all the Christmas presents were open, my oldest, he was 8 at the time, all of a sudden, he's going through all the wrapping. He's like, Mommy, Santa forgot you. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Grammy Mary hooks me up. Don't worry about it. 2 days after that, he comes running into the kitchen to me, and he's like, Mommy, Santa didn't forget you. There's something that was just pushed behind the tree. He had gone down, found the wrapping paper that I had wrapped all the Christmas presents in, and he just grabbed whatever he could find, but it was like such a, I guess, symbolic moment.
Sure.
I opened it, and there was a rosary bead that his CCD teacher had given him. And I'm like, Ryan, this is from your CCD teacher. He's like, oh man, I couldn't fool you. He had seen what had happened, right?
Yeah.
And like how you're doing that. And it's like, it was those moments where I'm like, yeah, this isn't, I don't want that. I don't want that example. And, you know, whether I have to do it on my own, but if you don't have that positive, and I remember asking one time, he's like, I just saw how sad you were. And, you know, and he tried to fix it. Yeah. That's not that's not an 8-year-old's thing to fix. That's not.
No, but you know, I do think that can speak well of the way he was raised.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know, it's just, you know, I get the emotions of that particular event, but if you look at it like 100-mile view, he's that caring because of the way he was raised.
He was born emotionally intelligent. That he came out of the womb that way, though. That he was born that way. I didn't get that
gene.
But in all his interactions with the teachers, staff, everything, like whoever he'll talk to, older people, younger people, he was just born with emotional intelligence, which is rare.
Yeah.
Wow. But like those are, like you said, a positive example. He was trying to fix something. Like no child should be trying to fix something, and those were the reinforcements that like, this is right. I want to give, you know, if it's 50-50, he has half a chance to learn a different behavior. Yeah. You know, so.
Wow. Looking at you. I can see the wheels turning.
I was going to say, I'm so wrapped up in the other stories, I wasn't thinking about anything to share myself. So I'll pass on this one. We'll move on.
What about sparks of, discovery? Meaning like you're a new parent and all of a sudden, bang, like there are moments in my life with being a brand new parent, a single parent, where something would happen. They would just, in the event of a normal day, and I'd internalize it because I was paying attention. I was, but it was so seismic, and I realized that life is not the same. This selfish bachelor style, or single, no kids marriage that I was in for the first 5 years. All of that selfishness, it ain't gonna operate like this anymore. I mean, I remember the first time I had Gwen when she was, I don't know. I didn't get a lot of overnights with her the first year, and it was probably better for me that I didn't because of the care that child needed. When she was 1 or 1.5, I was getting her like I was getting her brother. And having to take her into a lavatory in the old Boogie Street office we had, and learning about how kids go to the bathroom indiscriminately whenever they want. And she was doing pirouettes because she's just like been watching these dance videos, and as she's going to the bathroom, and it's going all over the stall and all over me, and those moments you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That's gonna change. That's gonna change my direction for the morning for sure. I don't even know if I have a diaper. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Change of clothes.
Everything. Just those moments where you just realize this whole self-centric way of living is over.
1,000%. I mean, 1,000%. I mean, I had Gabe when I was 24 years old in law school. Like. Single, trying to go through law school. I'd bring him to class with me. Like literally, I'd take him to law school in the car seat carrier of this little baby with this big ass head just sitting there in class. I mean, he had a huge head.
Did you hear that?
I tell him all the time. Like he was always the 50th percentile for height and weight, and like 90th percentile for head size. His head was huge. But I would carry him around like in law school, like take him to class with me. Like, I was just, I was in my second year of law school, and it was just like. I didn't have, my parents were an hour away, so it was just like me trying to figure it out. Like when I had him, and that made me grow up really fast, like really fast. I mean, I remember like taking him, like when he started going to daycare. I remember he always got car sick, and he would wait till we got to right where we were, and then he would throw up. Like we would get all the way. He would go to Point Park in the morning for daycare. I remember, and I lived in Mount Washington. I remember driving him down. I was like going into work. It was like, I think it was that summer. I had like a summer job. We pull up right in front. He's like, I think I'm going to be sick. I'm like, can you just wait? We're here. We're going to the bathroom. I open the door, and he's just like, whoosh, everywhere. And it was like, he did that all the time. But it's like, you learn so much about yourself. Like it's like what you can tolerate, like, cause when you're young, you don't have, I don't think I had any patience. Like I was a hothead when I was young. And then he taught me so much patience and just being able to, look at this little baby, and it's like I still look at him as a baby, even though he's like twice my size. But it's just weird. Like you learn so much about yourself as a person. What you think you can tolerate and put up with. Like, you have so much more capacity to do that as a parent, but you don't know it until you're right in it. And that's kind of what I learned about myself, especially as a young age. And once we had Ellie and Lena, I was older and I kind of didn't have shit figured out, but I still, like, it was girls, it was different, but I felt more secure in where I was. Like, okay, I can figure this out. But like with him, it's like, surprise, you're having a kid. I'm 24. I'm like, oh, okay, guess I got to figure this out. And learned a lot about myself, to say the least. But I always credit him with the reason why I did so well in law school, because I had him. I'm like, shit, like, I've got to be top of the class because I've got to pay for this kid. And that's literally what I did. Like, I mean, I had him and I just busted my ass and, was in the top of the class. Because if not, I don't know what I would have done. I just screwed around probably. So it was a learning experience for myself, definitely.
It's a motivator.
Oh, it definitely was.
Yeah, so I was young, 17, when I had my first one. And at the time, newly married, I was in college, I was starting my insurance career, and I was working, like, just trying to get my insurance career off the ground, which was straight commission. So here I was, young mom, and the same thing, I will tell my kids today, and they look at me in disbelief, that I am the laziest person you have ever met in your life. And they're looking at me like, no. Like, my son is convinced I snort cocaine off the table because I literally never stop. He's like,
races.
wouldn't it be great if we come down someday and mom's just snorting lines off the table, because she never sleeps. So they've never seen that part of me. But you're right, Rocco. Yeah. When you start that life, you realize it's not about you.
Yeah.
And there's times you resent it at first because you're not able to do the things you want to do. I mean, all my friends were having great time, and I was this young mom, and I was tied down. And then you go through your life, and then you get the reward of having one of your children become a mom, who sends me these messages almost on a monthly, weekly basis. Mom, I had no idea. How did you ever work, raise 4 kids, be in college, have, time in your ministry? Like, we did it all for many, many years. She goes, you never look tired. You never complained about anything. And it's like, that's her perspective. Meanwhile, I was probably like in the bathroom going, why did I do this? But there's a reward at the end of it. But you're right. You never have your life back. To this day, and it's funny because my kids have been gone out of my house for years. My cell phone's always there, and they know if they call, text, I'm going to be the first one to respond. Yeah. So your life is over. Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Absolutely. It's a selfless act being a parent. I always say it's just you have to understand that your life will be forever changed. That's really what it boils down to.
And you'll be exhausted forever because it's like, seems like it never ends. It's so exhausting. And it's like nice whenever they become teenagers though, because then they sleep in. It's those, oh my gosh, getting woken up at like 3 a.m. like, oh, you're like, like my youngest, I could, like my oldest, I could check on him, I could vacuum around him. He slept through everything. And then my youngest, if you creep the door open and shut it, he'd be up, and then he'd be up every hour. It's like, oh, so it's like you stop checking on him. You're like, he'll let me know. But it's like, you're just tired.
I used to army crawl out of, when Gabe, I'm being dead serious. Like Gabe was if you're listening, bud, love you. He was the worst sleeper. Like in our old townhouse, in his room, there was a spot on his floor that creaked. And I'd have to lay in his room until he fell asleep. So I'd have to literally lay in his bed because he thought like ninjas were going to come in the back of the house and kidnap him. I'm like, dude, you're fine. I would literally army crawl out of the room, and if I hit that spot, I'd like stop, like I'd wait. He'd hear, Dad, are you there? I'm like, yeah, I'm still here, bud. Yeah. Literally, it was, and then he would scare the shit out of me because I'd get out of there and go in the bed, and he'd wake up and he'd just like come into the room, like creep in. And get right next to my face and go, Dad. I'm like, oh shit, like literally this close to my face, and would just scare the shit out of me and wake me up. He's like, can you put me back to bed? And they'd be like every hour on the hour. I mean, till he was about 10 years old. Like, it was the most exhausting weekends ever. And I'm like, come on, man, can you please like just sleep in your room? Like, there's no such thing as ninjas. We live in Carnegie. Like, no one's gonna come and pick your bedroom on the back of a house with a grappling hook, come in that window and say, we're gonna get this kid. I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of other stuff they could do in this neighborhood other than grab you. But it was this every single night, this army crawl out of his room, and that stupid one spot on the floor. And I'd always like hit him, like,
the door.
Yeah.
It was the door. It was like, no matter how quietly you shut it, like that little latch, it was like, and I'm like, oh my God. So I stopped opening the door to check on him. I'm like, he'll be okay. He'll be okay, because I could not check on him. I'm like, if I want to sleep tonight, I'm not opening that door.
Yeah, when you look back as most parents, you look at the stupid stuff you do when your kids are little. Like, I'm just like, I remember when I was at Costco, I think, with the girls, and they were, it was just me. I don't remember where Laura was, and I had Ellie and Melina when she was little. And I remember Melina had this like thing she would carry around, and she threw it on the ground. And this woman, brand new mom, you could tell, like she had the baby Bajorn on this baby, like had hand sanitizer, and she like picks it up off the floor, and she's like, "Oh my God, you want me to go to the bathroom and wash this?" And I'm like, "That's your first kid, right?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, I said, "Trust me, it's fine." I said, "Give it back to her," and she like puts it right back in her mouth.
Yeah.
And this woman looked at me like I was out of my mind, like, "Oh my God, I can't." I'm like, "Listen, you will see soon enough." Like, your first kid, you're like, everything's gonna be second, third. You're like. They're going to eat dirt. They're not going to die. They're good.
Germs are good. Builds up their immunity. They'll be ready for school whenever that time comes. Because
you pick your battles.
You either do it when they're young, or you wait till they get to kindergarten and they're sick every day. You know, like, so get a head start. Let them have that binky off the floor
all the time. Yeah. I mean, Ellie used to eat dog food. She would like crawl in and grab dog food and put it in her mouth.
Like, Austin used to do that. You can tell him when you say it. Austin used to do that. Yeah, he did.
I'm like, oh, Gabe's coming to the game, by the way, so that'll be good. Yes.
Only one brand though. Once we changed brands, he wouldn't crawl over and eat it anymore. But only one. I don't know what that brand was, but there was a brand. It was dry.
Yeah.
I'll share this. This is not one of my finer moments, but. So, I had my son once, and we were in Bridgeville going to Chuck E. Cheese. We went there quite often.
Germ.
During the middle of the day. My dad would take him during the day because, I had to do something. And, we played skee ball or whatever that thing was we did. So, that day, I had this old Astro van, right? And that particular day, it was raining like a sieve. And as we're getting out, he's like, "Dad, I got to poop." I'm like, he never says that. Like, I didn't think he even knew that word. Like, poop. Oh, we're going to go in. Anyway, it was pouring.
Oh, no.
He's crying. I'm like, oh, Christ, what am I going to do? Like, and I said, "Are you going to make it? Are you going to make it to the bathroom in there?" And he's like, oh, I'm like, oh, no. Well, we had earlier in the day gone to some kind of ice cream shop, like there's one in, I think it might have been Robinson Township or something, but there was like there was my ice cream cup and then his little ice cream cup. And they were still in the car, in the bags. I got it out. I got the big one out. I said, "Listen, can you squat and poop in this thing?" It's an Astro van. There's a lot of room in there, right? He's like, "In there?" I said, "Yeah. Can you poop in there?" And he's like, "Okay." So in this rainstorm, inside my Astro van, there wasn't a bench seat. There was two captain's chairs. So there was a space like for him to squat and do it.
Oh my God!
And his aim was pretty good. He kind of went in the cup, and he was all happy with himself for getting it done. And he pulls his pants up and nothing to wipe his ass with, of course, because I couldn't find any napkins or anything. Pull him up, and it's raining. I mean, it is freaking raining, right? So now I'm saying to myself, well, okay, now. I got nothing to cover this thing with. And if I carry this cup through the parking lot, by the time I get to the
looks like chocolate ice cream, you'll be fine.
Trash can, it's going to fill with water. I'm not going to carry this cup of poop. I'm not going to do it. So this is what I said. I'll figure it out when I come out. I'll get a bag from them. God. So I left the cup of poop
in the car
behind my rear wheel. And figuring I would come and get it. Once I got them strapped back in, I would take it to the trash. I'd figure it out. Well, naturally, 2.5 hours later, we come out. I totally forget about it, right? So there's a cup of poop behind the rear wheel. We take off.
Oh, gosh.
Here's where it gets really weird.
Oh, no. You mean it gets weirder?
Ironically, I have Gwen the next day and Austin, and my parents want to come to visit, and we end up back at Chuck E. Cheese.
You were really trying to catch the flu.
I guess. We pull in, and my dad pulls in next to us on a different parking spot completely. And we're eating pizza, and we're doing our thing, and my son's looking out the window. And he's yelling, Pappy, look, that's my poop. Look at my poop. And I'm like,
Oh my God.
What? That's a cup of poop. That's my poop.
Oh my
The
God.
cup is still sitting on the parking lot in the same spot. There was no car around. He's like, look, Pappy, look, it's poop, my poop. And I'm like, no, we're not going outside, and we're not. And my mother looks at me and she goes, well, you're not going to throw that away? What lesson are you possibly teaching? You're just going to litter? You're going to let... I said, Mom, it's a cup of poop from yesterday. I think I'm going to be okay littering this one moment. It's going to stay there. It's going to stay there.
I will never look at that parking lot again.
There you go.
The same
That's
way.
it.
Think of how many people had to walk by and go, is that a cup of poop? Like,
Oh, it was definitely a cup of poop.
and
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
talk about, there was an ice cream cup and somebody pooped.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you were the
how many people, like, there's a cup of poop at Chuck E.
Oh,
Cheese.
and then the whole flood. It was like soft serve, and then, it was like, that was the whole joke that was going on. And he picked up on that, like soft serve. I mean, like what comes out of the? Yeah, I said Austin.
Oh my God.
Look at my poop.
You know, times
Kids
have
will sell you
changed
out.
because now you can buy those portable potties for emergencies
I
like
would
that
have
for
loved-
kids.
I was thinking about carrying a bucket from this point on, putting a bucket in the back.
There's
there.
so much stuff
There was
for
probably
kids
another
now.
father who had the same experience as you and then made money
Yeah, and-
off of the invention. He
Yeah,
just, like,
I mean-
took it one step further.
They abused this Astro van so bad because I was hauling guitars with it. I mean, it was a utilitarian thing, but his sister and him would sit in the captain's chairs, knowing that like they just didn't care because their dad didn't care about the van. It was always dirty. It was what it was. They would take lollipops and eat them halfway and throw them and watch them stick to the carpet. Look, it's stuck. And I thought that, and somehow I thought that was funny. I mean, somehow when I look back on it, yeah, I was laughing right along with them until I had to get the carpeting replaced, and there was like, there was stuff, not poop, but there was stuff everywhere.
That we know of.
Candy, M&M, it was unbelievable. I tore the entire carpet out of that van and had them did a bed liner on the inside. Now they can't damage it.
Yeah.
They destroyed that thing.
That's the best when you get past the goldfish stage and you're not finding them stuck
Yes.
between the seats and under with
That's the
petrified
worst.
French fries, and you're like, oh my God. Like,
Or they
find-
pick when they start eating it and they don't know any better and you're young. They find like a
Yes.
French fry in their seat and they're like, oh, what's this? I'm
Although-
like, wait, so what are you eating back here, kid? I got a French fry. Yeah, no, don't eat that.
I'm guilty of
Don't eat
eating
that.
a gummy bear I found at the bottom of my purse just because I was hungry and it was
women-
there. So
I would have to
you know.
think that all women have stories about finding like old gum and lifesavers and all kinds of crap. I mean, I remember every time I'd ask my mother for candy, I hated this because she would dig down in that purse and it would come out smelling like perfume
Yep.
and pulling
It
a couple
tasted like
hairs
perfume,
out of
yeah.
it. And it handed it
Purse
to you.
dirt.
Or my grandmother, they'd give you some candy and you're looking like, I don't know if that's at all.
Yeah. It was like the Certs roll, but you know how you rip it? So, like, of course, the top one was always the one you didn't want. You wanted to, like, can I go to the next one
Yes.
down? Like, where it wasn't touching
Or
the
those
purse.
caramel chews that like, get soft.
the
and
creams,
oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
the creams.
Kids, right? I mean,
listen, the
Yeah.
goldfish stage was the worst.
Yeah,
I
it
remember
is.
you
Like-
just.
and every kid
your car
gets
is a
that from
mess.
their parents. That's an American thing. You have to give your kids goldfish.
I don't understand why it gives them in the car because they just fall into crevices and cracks. It's
Throw
like
'em, dude. They throw them.
Luckily, my girls never threw them, but Melina,
That you saw.
Melina would eat. She just eats all the time. Like she even to this day, she's so tiny. She eats, and she would bring We would go, literally. From the house to the grocery store, which is like 10 minutes, she would pack like a freaking lunch. I'm like, we'd eat breakfast, we'd get up, go to the grocery store, and she'd like pack a bunch of snacks. I'm like, where do you think we're going on a road trip? We're going to the grocery store. Like, it's literally 5 miles from here. And then she would just leave food everywhere. Now, luckily, they're older and she doesn't do that, so which is good. But I remember just for years, and Laura's car was worse than mine because they were in her car a lot more than me because she carts them everywhere. I would get in her car. I'm like, oh my God, this is disgusting. She's like, I can't even keep it clean. I just give up. I've given up. Like, I can't do it. I
That
can't
was
do
it,
it.
man.
I just had the satisfaction. I had to get a second car, so I got a used car. The guy cleaned it out. Everything's great. And so I was picking my son. Well, my son, I was bringing him home from his first driving instruction. And I'm like, do you want to go through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A and get some milkshakes? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I guess I should learn how to go through the drive-thru. I'm like, yeah, sure. So we do this. And when I was taking the straws out, I crumpled them and I threw them in the thing, and it was so
Satisfying.
And I don't think he even knows, because he didn't say anything to me. I'm like, I'm waiting for him to yell at me, and then my response was gonna be, oh yeah, I'll get it later, because that's what they do. And then you have water bottles everywhere in your thing, all this garbage, and you yell at them. I don't even think he knows it's there, but it was 2 straw wrappers, and it was.
I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten yelled at for littering when it comes to those straw wrappers. I'm guilty. I have littered my entire life up until about 5 or 7 years ago. Until it was slammed home to me. That's bad, but I don't litter anything else in my life. I just don't. But when it comes to those things, I'm driving and I'm talking on the phone and I'm crinkling it up and I'm going like this and I'm like thinking, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's a damn thing out the window. My kids, my wives, they've all of them constantly, don't do that. I'm like, when they're not around, let me tell you something. I'm like, I'm hitting telephone poles and things. All right, so what would be one of the tougher moments that you could remember about raising your children? I'm going to start this way. Because you've been getting off easy so far, friend. I mean, I have 5 collectively, 2 of my own and 3. So, I mean, I got a nice sample size to work from. You have 4. That's a nice sample size to work from. There's got to be a lot, I would think.
Tons. But a dramatic one. And she will be fine with me telling the story. But my oldest had some problems with alcohol. And discovered if she drank vodka, she didn't have to eat, so she could stay skinny. And so there was...
Does it work?
Multiple times. Apparently it did. She's still thin today, but she's clean, sober, almost 8 years. But
fantastic.
There was a moment, and this was probably my most difficult parenting moment of all, where I would find her, and she was usually drunk in her car, found her in the Target parking lot, drove up to her, and for 45 minutes begged, tried to get her out of the car, wanted to take her to the hospital. And at some point, she was just so non-compliant, wanted nothing to do with it. I got in my car, I drove away, and I called the police. And I said, there's a girl driving a red Honda. Please go pick her up. And when you do that, you're and she ended up in jail. Not on that turn, but those are the hardest things when you walk away from your child. And I've said this on the last podcast. There were multiple times. Hey, is this Jennifer's mom? Yes. This is Officer so-and-so. We have your daughter. First question, dead or alive? And you do that for 10 years, you're cauterized. I mean, there's just no emotion left. But those are the difficult years. Those are the ones that I still to this day, can say. And I remember times where she was found, or I would bring her home from some horrendous situation, laying in somebody's yard. She didn't know where she was, and I would have to bathe her, and she was in her 20s. Those are tough times. Those are definitely the most difficult of my life.
Wow. Coming to you, buddy.
I mean, I don't have anything close to that. I feel like
it's not a competition.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
you don't want to.
No. I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's like the stuff that it was tough for me. Like I can't even. I don't even like looking like that's. Luckily, my kids have been pretty good for the most part. The toughest thing for me is when they get hurt. I remember when Gabe was little, he fell out of his bed and hit his eye, on the corner of his nightstand. It was he was fine, but it was black and blue, but it had killed me. And then when Melina broke her arm, literally on a trampoline in our neighborhood, just fell on a piece of wood and just broke her arm. Those are the things that were tough for me, because pretty much my kids are pretty resilient. They, they're good kids. They don't really get, and Gabe never really got in trouble. The girls haven't. It's just, the hardest thing for me as a dad is just seeing them hurt, because I can't do anything about it. I can't take the pain away. I can't take the hurt away. I hate feeling that's probably it's the helplessness, because I help people for a living. I'm always able to solve problems, and when I have something that my kids are going through that I can't solve or I can't help them with. They have to go through it themselves, or they have to feel that pain. That's the hardest thing for me, I think, at least so far. I mean, granted, my oldest is 21, so I still have a long way to go, I'm sure. And then I have daughters, so who knows what the hell that's going to be like in the next 10 years. I don't even want to think about that, but it's just that's really what it is for me. It's the helplessness, the moments in parenting when you feel helpless. Like, that's the hardest part for me.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, my kids, knock on wood, have been pretty easy. I mean, we fight, like, my youngest one and I, we butt heads, and maybe it's because we're very similar.
Like embarrassing them, right? You make a sport out of it. I've seen the videos.
Oh, that's both of them. They're both equally embarrassed. But no, like, I think as a parent, you want to protect them from emotionally being hurt. Luckily, my youngest, like the moment when, I hope he doesn't hear this or anybody hears this, but he, was invited to a homecoming dance, and, at this age, like, sophomore, they all go in groups, and I, show up. Like, my oldest son has been with a girlfriend for like 2 years almost, so they're steady. So they do their own thing. They're both seniors. And then I have my sophomore, and he's not into that thing where he wants to be bothered with girls right now. He's like, it's like, they're annoying, And of course he agreed to go with this girl because it was the whole group. So I show up, he gets a call, she's not coming. And like, part of me was like, oh my God, like, oh my God. Like, and he's like, he was happy. He was like, yeah, because I didn't want to go with her anyway.
It's a different era now, for sure, yeah.
And like, I was happy, but then part of me is like, well, like, she waited till, like, we're literally there to get pictures at this country club where everybody was meeting, and she's not showing up. And I'm like, there was no notification. I'm like, what do I do with this $40 corsage that I bought?
Yeah.
I had $80 into 2 corsages. One of them is going nowhere. And I was like, I was more upset. But he was like, great. He goes, Mom, we don't even hang out with them anyway. You go, you get your pictures, and then you're off. But, like, I was worried.
Yeah.
I'm like, is he going to be like, are kids going to maybe like be like, oh, your date didn't show? But none of that happened. But I'm like, well, what was wrong with him? Like, why didn't she want to show up, or what happened? But those are the things, trying to protect them from, I think, more emotional than physical. I mean, obviously,
yes,
seriously, but I think, like, the emotional, you worry about that. You can't fix it, but you hope that they'll maybe have a dialogue with you if they're hurting.
Yeah.
But you can't guarantee that. Like, why am I going to talk to my mom? So the emotional is, but.
It's definitely different now, though. Like, even when him and I've done podcasts with our sons, and just hearing their perspective of the dating world. Like, it's like the hardest thing with Gabe. Like, he had a girlfriend he dated for like 4 or 5 years. She came on vacation with us 2 summers ago. Then he, like, broke up with her when he went back to college. I remember he called me, like, crying. Because he wanted to break up with her because he knew it was the right thing to do, because he was in college, and he's like, she drove me crazy. Like, if I didn't, like, text her right back, he didn't want to have to check in all the time. He wanted to enjoy college. And I kind of told him, I said, yeah, you need to do that. But it was weird because, like, he gets it, but then he was, like, crying about it because it was that he didn't know how to deal with the emotion, because he was with her for so long and he felt upset, like, hurting her, but he didn't want to be with her. And it was like, me as a dad, I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, this is a smart move, dude. But I also wanted to, like, be compassionate. That was a struggle for me, like, how to listen to him and advise him without going over the top. It was like, kind of, because you want to make his own decision, not steer him one way or the other. But that was a challenging moment for me, because I remember just listening to him talk, and when I hear my 20-year-old son crying, I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, this is like, and I didn't know what to do, but it was, that was a tough one for me. But it's so interesting, because it sounds like your son's the same way. Their perspective with girls now is so different. It's like, they couldn't care less. It's like, it's just too much trouble.
I kind of wish that's how I was wired. I mean, in my generation, I kind of wish that we weren't girl crazy. Yeah. And the girls weren't guy crazy, because that was kind of, it was just different. It was so different.
There was nothing else to do back then. Like, now they have so many things to distract them. But I mean, but think about it. Like, they have so much other stuff now that they don't need to be in a relationship. Like, you dated people when you were young because that's what you did. Like, that was the thing to do. Now it's like, there's a million things they can do.
But there's also that skewed technology that we have. A lot of them meeting, it's through technology. Are they really meeting each other? Or, you have, predators obviously you have to worry about, but
No, we're going there. Don't worry.
oh boy. But their interaction isn't like, like you go, like you would when you dated back our day. Okay, what are we going to do? Okay, the movie starts at this time. So, you had a call, find out what time the movie, they find out on an app. Maybe they'll go. Maybe they'll just stream it. We're not leaving our homes. We're not doing mini golf. Are they, those were normal interactions where you actually hung out. They don't hang out the same. Like they're sitting there and they're still on their phone sitting next to each other, or it's really weird. But the thing with your son breaking up with the girl, them having that breakup, my son and his girlfriend, they've been together almost 2 years, and I know that there's been times where she'll come to me, and he'll go to her mom. And, they'll be going back and forth. And I'm trying to teach her as a young girl, you need to set boundaries. Right. And because girls aren't taught, I don't know about you, Lynn, but boundaries were not taught. It was just, you just were raised, but nobody talked about what a boundary was. And when he's upsetting her, I'm always like, Brooke, like, if you need me to talk to him, like, I don't want to get involved. But if he's being a jerk, and he's doing something, I need to explain to him what, like, I've had to send him away. We were eating dinner one time, and it's like showing respect. We were eating dinner, and he got up from the table, and his girlfriend Brooke and I are sitting there eating. He gets up, and he's in the living room, and I'm talking to her, and then all of a sudden I'm like, Ryan, I'm like, where are you? And I'm like, he goes, I'm watching TV. I'm like, Brooke is still sitting here eating dinner. He goes, she takes too long to eat. I'm like, get in here, and you need to sit here. I go, that is rude. I go, Brooke, I don't mind talking to you. It has nothing to do with that, but he should not be leaving you at the table. And I'm trying to show her, and I'm trying to also call him out on the BS.
It's a balance.
Absolutely.
But, Brooke, what you accept now is what you're stuck with. And you need to speak up. You need to have an opinion. And I love both of them, but at the same time, they're so young and there's so much they have to learn.
Society's different now.
No, but boundaries have to be set. And I don't feel that women, at least in my era, were taught that. It's like, okay, the man makes more money, so he had more, say in the relationship. And it shouldn't be that way. And I want her to see that so she can be an equal partner.
Yeah, it just depends on upbringing, right? I mean, it just comes out of, like I grew up in the 70s, so 70s and 80s, but in Coraopolis, very working class town, very Italian ways. You got that. A little bit different era, 10 years difference, but 12 years difference. But there was those coming out of the World War II generation, coming actually from the World War I into the World War II generation, and then them raising our parents, and we're all young, and we're getting more traditional values then. And I think that was shaped by the fact that society moved slower. There was less inputs, less noise and confusion. There were just things you had to do and things you didn't do. Now, I think it's just there's a lot of ball of confusion right now. So the things that were important, I think, in society for civility, a lot of that stuff doesn't hold the same weight anymore.
Because parents have gotten lazy. Like, that's the problem.
No question.
Parents have gotten lazy, plain and simple.
No question.
Like, exactly that. That's how I look at it. Like, it's our responsibility to teach our kids, right? It's not the school system. It's not their teachers. Like, they play a role, but as parents, like, that's our, when we bring a child into this world, it's our job to make sure they become good human beings and to teach them the way of the world and the way to operate in it. And everybody parents differently. I get that. We all have different worldviews, but there are certain fundamental, basic human things that people need to be taught, and kids aren't being taught that. And you can see a clear difference. Like, I see it with just little dickheads in my neighborhood. Like, it's like they're just jerks, and it's like yesterday. Like, I had this, and this is the stupidest thing, but I'm going to give it as an example. So, in our neighborhood, like, it's packed full of houses. Like, you've been in my house, so it's I usually, because my one car's in the driveway, we have two spots in the driveway, but I have a box in there, so I have my one car out in the driveway, and then I usually park my SUV on the street. And I usually park it past my driveway because my neighbor has a basketball hoop that's kind of like at the edge of his yard, at the edge of mine, into the street. And this wasn't his kids at all. These were just some random kids in the neighborhood. So there was a car parked when I got home from the gym. There was a car parked where I usually park. So I parked in front of my house, which is like right next to the basketball hoop. And these kids, like, they must have come and knocked on the door to try and get me to move my car, and I was on a call and didn't hear it. Well, they just started playing basketball like right around my car, and I was like, and I got so chafed by it, and I was telling Laura, I'm like, when I was a kid, like, you would never even dare to go to someone's house and say, hey, can you move your car so we can play basketball? It's like, you played if the car wasn't there. If the car was there, you just dealt with it. And it's like, who's teaching these kids, like, common decency and respect? Like, I get, like, you tried to come, and if I didn't answer the door, then you don't play.
Right.
They were just, like, playing, like, trying not to hit the car.
And you know it's going to get hit.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, like, am I that grumpy old man? Like, that's what I felt like for a minute. I'm like, I feel like I'm that grumpy old man, but I also am like, who's teaching these kids manners? Like, that's just something you don't do. That's just common human decency.
Elder respect's what it is, a lack thereof.
Yeah, that's what it is. Exactly what it is.
I feel bad because I always go with the approach, my kids are guilty until they're proven innocent. So if I have an adult who tells me my son did something, like, there's adults don't go up to rat out kids for not doing anything, right? So I'm not going to be that parent who's like, oh my God, what happened? But I do feel bad because we had a situation a few years ago with my youngest where he was wrongfully accused of pulling a girl's top up, like in a assembly or something, and he's adamant, I didn't do it. And it was so weird because the day before I had a conversation about keeping your hands to yourself, literally the day before. I'm like, you know, you have to be careful because boys can be wrongfully accused. And I always talk to them like, make sure that you tell the truth because the truth always comes out. And, you tell a lie, somebody's going to find out about it. And, the shirt was popped up and I got a call from the guys. And I remember saying, I just talked to him about keeping his hands. And I'm like, she's like, go home and talk to him and see what he says. And I walked in the door. He's so upset. I mean, this was several years ago. And he's crying. He's like, I didn't do it. I'm like, tell me what happened. And he's like, well, we were standing there and she turned around and she looked at me and I was standing like this. I'm like, oh, how convenient. His hands were not so I'm like, okay, keep going. And they did tell me that they were taking a picture that day. And he was standing right behind this girl, as the girl said. So the evidence, Rocco knowing, the evidence was not looking good. And then, and he goes, well, so she looked at me and he goes, well, her hands were the same way. So she thought I was making fun of her. So I put them in my pocket. I'm like, oh, convenient again. The hands aren't free, I'm like, but then he was like, I didn't do it. Why don't you believe me? And I'm like, I don't think he did it. Like, as a parent, you're going to know your kid. So I called the principal the next day. I had to leave a message. I'm like, look, I talked to him. I don't think he did it. She called me back and I started, she's like, you don't have to say a word. The student who did it must have felt guilty after kids were interrogated at the school. Wow. Kids were interrogated. His friends were pulled in to find out what happened. And she's like, the child who did it confessed. She must have felt guilty, but her parents called. And I was kind of upset because when I asked him, I'm like, well, could you please let him know? Because, we were upset. And, he could have been marked as this troublemaker going forward. And he told me that they called him and said, you're off the hook. But the child who was this girl's friend who did it was praised for telling the truth. So I, as a parent, like, it was
that's 2023 for you.
But I was just like, but I use it as learn. I'm like, this is why we tell the truth. You did tell the truth, but the truth will come out. But at the same time, wow, they put him through a lot. The kids at school were questioned. His friends were pulled in. Like, it was like this big scandal.
Of course it was.
And, this girl was adamant he did it. But again, my kid was guilty until he was proven innocent. And but like I said, like, why is an adult going to tell a story? Why is they're not going to tell you your kid's being a jerk if your kid's not being a jerk,
right?
So I kind of go with that.
Yeah, but a lot of adults have become jerks, I feel like, and they just like to, like, one thing I always said, like, I don't want to
like kids now.
Well, and I remember when Gabe was younger, his mom called me, and there was a situation that happened, and she's like, should I call the parents? I'm like, no. I said, don't. I said, we're not going to be those parents that call the parents. I said, they're boys. They can sort it out. I said, what's it going to teach him? Like, if we get involved and sort out this issue that they're having, like, let them deal with that. But I feel like there's been so many parents that just, they get so involved. It's like, kids have to learn to solve problems themselves. And I also think there's just a lot of parents out there that just, think their kids do no wrong. And I'm like, all kids are bad. Like, all kids do stupid shit. We all do. Like, my kids are part of this thing from angels, but you have to just have some self-awareness. But I think they get so, oh, my kid would never do that. So, well, don't say never, because
never say never.
There's a lot of immature parenting going on too.
Yeah, there absolutely is.
I mean, it's like because I think social media kind of like stunted the emotional growth of a lot of parents, where they get the feeling that they're younger. They want to be friends with their kids as opposed to being their parents.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of like I think people being pushed in that direction, and all of a sudden you can't be a true friend to your 15-year-old. You got to be that parent.
Yeah.
And you got to be that parent. And, you know, you can be friendly, but you can't be their friend. And it's so again, for me, lessons is like, it's going to right turn for a second, but the toughest thing for me so far, without a doubt, with my kids is what Rocco and I've talked about many times before, and I'm guilty of it, and that is insulating them from pain, especially emotional pain. I've kind of started figuring it out, you know, after my son was like 10 or 11. But those early years, I mean, like, I would go out of my way to take care of everything. When they needed something done, I would just go do it. And I think their mother was doing the same thing too, to a certain degree. We were just very making sure that everything had its place and everything was right, but we were not giving them the ability to figure things out they should have been figuring out on their own. So we kind of stunted them a little bit in that regard. And then once we let go of the reins a little bit, which was hard, then you can start to see the benefit, because you can see them figuring things out. You can see them solving their own problems, you know, and that was rewarding. The other thing for me too is, so my kids had a stepmother, my second wife, when they were relatively younger, and for the 5 or 7 years through that marriage, she did a rather admirable job, and they formed a great relationship. And then when she decided that she wanted a new life and left, it was pretty abrupt. They didn't get a goodbye. They didn't understand what was going on. My son handled it pretty well. I don't know how well my daughter did, because she was probably more closer to her. So then when I got back out and started dating again, and Natalie and I started having a relationship years later, I don't know if I was emotionally strong enough to integrate my children with Natalie's kids once we decided to be serious a couple of years in. Like, I wasn't good at that, and I look back at it now, and Austin and Gwen should be closer to Saffron, Damien, and Sierra, their stepchildren. And the reason that they're not isn't because of the lack of trying. Even all parties, Natalie, my wife, even the kids, it was me having that fear, like their stepmother had gotten ripped out of their life, and what if this doesn't work out? Like, you know, I should have understood that, you know, that may happen, because you can't predict anything. But I'm robbing them of the ability to have a closer relationship with what ended up being their stepkids. And everything's great. I just feel like it could be better than it is, and it probably is because of my irrational fear. So that was definitely a mistake. And if I could go back, I would definitely change that for sure. But the just in general, for mistakes, I looked at it like I was making them every day with my kids, and but I would recognize it, and I'd say, okay, well, I'll try not to do that again tomorrow. I know I probably will, but I'll try not to do it again. You know, it's like, but it's like, it's even simple things like, don't let them watch South Park. I was on a South Park run back in the 2000s, you know, and it was a cartoon. Of course, my kids saw a cartoon, and why is Dad watching a cartoon? That must be cool. It was just there's little things that I had to be more mature about, like Eric, quit dropping F-bombs. Not every day, but once in a while. You just can't do that anymore. I mean, I know it's there for effect, but you gotta be able to pull back. You know, you gotta be able to be more civilized and learning to control my temper. Someone cuts me off in traffic, and I'm like, and I'm looking back, and there's these two little people sitting there. Yeah. In the captain's chair, like, yeah. So it was just those little moments all along the way where I was learning how to be a dad, but in turn, it was kind of making me a better person. You know, I mean, like it was making me be a nicer person all the time. And that's what being a parent was for me. Was those mistakes were actually huge growth opportunities to change and improve my character. You know, so I don't ever look at it as being catastrophic at all. There's always going to be things I wish I had done differently. But if I had not had been at least mature enough to understand I was making those mistakes as I was going and to pay attention to them and fix them or try to, then shame on me. Then I would have been a louse of a parent. But I think I was able to correct a lot of mistakes as I went, and that I'm pretty proud of.
I think nobody's a perfect parent, and anybody who goes in thinking that they're the perfect parent, and I remember when I was like 16, I was working at the mall, and I would see, people who had their kids on leashes. I'm like, oh my god, until you have a runner, and then you're like, okay, like now that leash, like that's
great
genius.
Idea.
Yeah,
exactly.
you're like that's genius. Like we're walking in Disney, and we're walking away, and my 5-year-old's still looking at the parade, and we're halfway down, and we're like, oh my God, where's Brayden? And we're like, he's just standing there. We're like running to find her, like the leash makes sense. So you don't judge,
No, not at all.
You don't judge, and you learn. And if you think you're perfect and you can tell people how it's going to be, like more power to you, because...
Yeah. My kids wouldn't jump on an elevator. Like, Austin would, but Gwen wouldn't. She was like hesitant to. And then one time I turned around and like the elevator took off without her. And I'm looking at my son, where's my daughter? And she was still standing there near the elevator.
Oh, no. That leash would come in handy.
and she was probably only like 4. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's on another floor by herself. I'm now on floor 3. She's still on floor 4. I'm like, talk about panic going through. Oh my goodness. It's like...
Yes.
Yeah, just the little simplest, stupid.
Parenting makes you very vulnerable as a person. It really exposes your vulnerabilities, but it's good because I think you grow and develop from that. But I think it really, you peel back the onion of who you are. Like it exposes everything, like your weaknesses, your strengths, and everything in between. Like it's you learned, the 21 years I've been parenting, I've learned so much about myself.
It's that prep to be like the awesome grandparent. Like I made the mistakes with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at this.
Yes, I want to be a cool as shit grandfather. I can tell you that right now. I said I'm still figuring out the dad thing.
You never did that for me. Yeah, well, that was my mistake.
Well, that's what it's like now. You like that. You look at that now, like with my mom. Like she does. She did everything for me too. But it's just like it's crazy, like how you see the difference. It's like parenting and grandparenting. It's like you used to tell me. You used to discipline me all the time. Like they do whatever they want. Like, what is happening here? Like, this is bullshit. This is crap.
My kids had their little TV trays, and Grammy's bringing them their lunch, and they're sitting there, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Like,
everything they learned as your parents, they have forgotten.
Yeah.
And now they're like just the most accommodating people on the planet.
You want Oreos for dinner? Absolutely. A whole drawer of them. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? I don't eat peas.
The expensive grandparent gifts. My kids had the riding dump truck. It was a 2-seater. As soon as like my oldest was 2, like I'm getting for both of them, and like okay, like we had this big dump truck.
When did you all of a sudden get Walton money? Where's all this coming from?
Exactly. My Christmas present was like underwear, an outfit, and that was it.
I leave the house, have Gabe. My parents get a pool. They're like stay. I'm like, what? This is great.
Yeah.
It's different. I want to be like that when I'm a
grandparent. Or if they ever stay over, it's like they get to...
They do whatever they want. They do whatever they come home
want. Like, well, Grandma, that'd be so good. I'm like, whoa, what?
They would go to my... They would go to
what?
Oh, my God.
When?
They would go to my parents' house and come home with, like, a car full of shit. Like, they would go... Like, this would be, like, a month after Christmas.
Right.
And they would just go... They would just buy them. Or they would go... Because my kids, they know how to sucker people. Like they're very persuasive. So they would, like especially Melina. Melina is the most persuasive. But they'll go and they'll be like, "Wow, can we go to Target? Can we do this?" And they'll just like, I'm like, "Why did we came here with a couple bags for you to sleep the weekend, and we have to bring 2 cars to pick you up? Like I don't understand this. Like what is happening here?" But they enjoy it, and you just let them do it, and then we deal with the shit when we get home. We unpack everything and put it away. So, yeah, I'll probably be that same type of grandparent.
Yeah, I think we all want to. We all strive to be that grandparent, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, were you divorced?
Yes.
Okay. You weren't. No. You had a relationship, but you weren't divorced. You're divorced. Mm-hmm. So, one of the biggest mistakes I probably made, which I'm sure is very common, but as a young divorced father, a single dad, I would pick my kid up in the morning, Austin, when he was very young, and he would go to the guitar place with me, and he'd be at my side as I was shipping guitars out, or we'd end up at Chuck E. Cheese or the park. But ultimately, I did this 4 out of 5 days a week. I'd have him. And 3 of those 4 days, invariably, we would end up at Toys R Us.
Oh, yeah.
In Robinson Township. And every day at Toys R Us, invariably, he would not leave the store unless he had something. And everybody was telling me I'm out of my mind, including his mother, my parents, her parents, my friends. But Austin was, because I didn't know what else I was supposed to be doing, right? So for a year and a half, I mean, I cannot tell you that the statements from it was every flipping day. Mm-hmm. He had every Batman, I was buying him chopper bikes, and I was sending all this shit home, and mm-hmm. Diana I'd drop him off, and she's like, what are you, I don't have any room for stuff, And then I stopped. And then he was heartbroken because I had to put the brakes on, which was like, to see him cry because he, couldn't go to Toys R Us is like, and I created the monster.
Yeah. I stuck to the dollar Matchbox cars. You want a Matchbox car?
I would give him 20 of those. I'm an idiot. He likes Matchbox cars. Great. I'll give him a whole case of things. He can line them up all around. Yeah. Everything was in excess because I was trying to overcompensate for.
Yeah. Right. I was always on a tight budget.
Guilt, whatever it was.
Yeah. I've always been on a tight budget. So
I was on one. I just did not adhere to it.
Well, and it's hard because you have to do I've always tried to teach my kids wants and needs. Mm-hmm. When we go, they'd want those new Katie shoes that came out, but I'm like, they just came out. Mm-hmm. That's a want, it's not a need. So I'm like, maybe I can find something on a budget. So maybe they got last year's Katie's or something, and it was affordable and they seemed happy with it. But wants and needs was something that we've always talked about and trying to get them to think before, my oldest, he's always on Amazon. I have packages. I'm like, what is this? What is this?
It's a different world.
Sounds like me.
And it drives me crazy. But my younger one, he's doesn't have the funds, I guess, but he hasn't discovered that. But it's just trying to keep them. I don't know. I think if anything they got, it was from my parents. Right. That extra, or from the other grandparents. So I didn't have to. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't have to, but then I also didn't have the funds to. I was stressing about buying them a $20 pair of shoes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's why it was easy to say no. We can walk, we can window shop, or but
you raised 4.
I did.
Yeah, that's not easy financially.
No, and early in their lives, we did chores with 3 envelopes: savings, giving, spend. So savings was 10, giving was 10, you got to spend 80. So they learned early money management, and they knew. And that never really changed. And when it did come to the time...
That's a good lesson.
And I was always of the philosophy that you're not your child's friend.
Yeah.
Not that you don't want to be liked by them, but if you really take the job seriously, you're their parent. You need to be that guide. And I remember seeing a situation where there was this 13-year-old throwing herself on the floor, and the dad was just caving. And I remember this had been going on for a while, and I finally just stepped in and I said, if you don't stand up to her, you won't stand up for her. She's looking for you to be strong.
Good. That's good. Wow.
And just as a hilarious thing, when I was married, I had that second daughter who's, she's my wild child, still is today. You can look her up, and I have, 3 beautiful daughters. So we've gone through a lot of heartbreak, but this girl decided she was going to go hang out somewhere she shouldn't have been. So her dad and I at the time had...
Did you do that?
Oh, man. We kind of had we had to go look for her often. And we found her. At least we thought we found her. We were at this house. And my ex-husband, this was epic, by the way, guys, if you ever want to know how to be a man. Guy opens the door. He goes, "My daughter here?" He says, "Nope," as a real jerk would.
Okay.
He looks at the floor, sees her shoes. He goes, "How old are you?" He said 18. He hauled back and sucker punched him. He went down. He stepped over him, went out, grabbed my daughter, and pulled her out. I was like,
"That's great.
That's a man."
That is exactly right. That is amazing.
So there's a part of it where you don't want to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But your kids need to know. Yeah. Not only are you going to stand up to them, for them, but you're going to fight for them. in the appropriate situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely kill somebody.
I thought the guy might have been dead.
Yeah.
I mean, he hauled off.
I mean,
So how did you track her down? I'm curious because see, like I have the Find Mine, so I can see where my boys are. I know when they're on their way home, like so then I can kind of. It's not that I'm following everything. Like when they say they're somewhere. I get that, but like when I'm like, how far away from home is he? He's due home. Like I want to make sure, So I have that. So how did you?
We didn't have any tracking.
So
we knew. I just knew. We had a huge neighborhood and we were all around this lake. It was a beautiful neighborhood, lots of money. Unfortunately, lots of free time and lots of kids home unsupervised. So it was trouble. I'd almost rather live anywhere else than where we lived at the time because we were on the top of our game in the insurance business and, had the nice life. Yeah. But we were on top of our kids too. And they didn't love it. I mean, we were like PIs for years. That's what we did. My poor kids.
I wouldn't say poor kids. I mean, that's like kind of where you have to be. Like,
But parents won't do it today. No. And you're right, they're lazy.
Yeah,
I remember, about that third or fourth kid, you see your kid doing something and you're like, I just don't even want to deal with this today. But you're like, if I don't,
exactly,
it's going to be worse. So the worst things that were happening, in the older years, I mean, I had my kids spin out of control a little bit, but for the most part, they've all returned. They're all phenomenal people today. Yep. Every single one of them.
Well, I'm probably like the uncool mom because it's common that a lot of parents like give kids alcohol. I am not. Yeah. I don't advocate for that. I don't think it's. I mean, it's.
Well,
it's not illegal. Right. Thank you.
Nothing like giving my kids alcohol until 21.
It was so funny. During homecoming, my son went, and he had another friend that I know that was stopping by. He's like, "Oh, some more people are coming." I'm like, "What?" And like they were just gonna have a bonfire, and here I am with like cupcakes and chips, and a bunch of kids I've never seen showed up. They lasted 5 minutes. There was no alcohol at my house. They were gone, and I'm like, "All right." I mean, I'm not going to do it, and.
Yep.
That is not the norm, I guess.
The consequences are too grave.
But I'm like the abnormal one.
No, you're right.
But it's just not something that and my kids will like mess with me. Like, because when I started college, I was 17. Look, my parents never handed me alcohol and said, here, you're here, it's safe, whatever. Never. None of my friends' parents ever did that. But of course, I went to college. I was 17.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. College, right? Yeah. So my kids are always like, well, you were 17 when you... I'm like, I was in college.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it was different. And, I'm not condoning. I go, never once did your grandparents say it was okay. Never once was I driving a car when I was there. Like college, you're walking. I go... And you know what? I put myself in a lot of risk, like at times, like you're...
Do you ever think about that?
Yes,
in terms of
all
the shit
time.
that we did?
Yes.
Are we just the survivors because the ones who didn't make it are dead? I mean, like,
we're survivors.
You know what I mean? Like because I think about that every day, the amount of risk I took with relationships, premarital sex, everything that I was encountering as a teenager and just out there having fun and doing my thing. Taking plenty of risks before the AIDS thing, because you remember we hit it right before the late '80s AIDS scare. Yeah. It was around in the early '80s, but it wasn't a thing until the late '80s, and by then I was already starting my adult life. But just the whole risky behavior, and then just doing crazy things like just swimming down in the river, just like the tugboats going by and us grabbing like
cliff diving, in Bourbon, Ohio. We would just go to this, just jump off a 30-foot cliff into it's like 5 feet of water. I'm like, how did no one die?
Are we? So we're just the survivors.
I mean, honestly,
because some obviously did, right? But I'm just saying we just. So are the kids too insulated now, or is it about right, or society's been helped by technology putting some insulators and some protections in there for them, like. Where are we today in terms of protecting our children from physical harm?
Kids are soft. Sorry, they are.
I agree.
They're
soft. They are soft. Technology, I feel at my age, I earned that right to all that technology. I feel like the kids shouldn't be using it in school. I feel it needs to go old school. My son is both of my boys are extremely smart, but he made a comment the other day. He goes, I just read my first book for fun. He's a
Yeah.
senior.
Yeah.
And he read his first book for fun. I'm like, what? Like, I used to have a study hall, and I mean, I worked in a bookstore in high school, so I was obsessed. Like, that's all I did. I mean, the technology is like too much for them. Like, I just feel that school needs to be old school. They don't know how to write cursive. My son, at his permit, he had to write his middle name. And he's like, he gave me this death glare. He goes, I don't know how to sign my middle name, like in cursive. He knew how to do his first and last. And I go, just do the best you can. Like, what was I going to do? I couldn't sign it for him. But like, I'm like, there is so much just common knowledge, just so much that was important. Like, literally cursive, like, they don't know how to do cursive.
I don't think I could do cursive now if I try.
I mean, like now, because I mean, we type everything, but like, I feel as an adult, like I earned that. Like, I had to use the encyclopedia. I had to go. They don't understand that Dewey Decimal System. They don't understand.
What a scam that was, the Dewey Decimal System.
That little pencil.
I don't think I've heard that since high school.
Awful.
Like, what is that? I think that's what they do.
Celsius and the Dewey Decimal System. What scams those were.
But I don't
Celsius.
I don't think I could find a book using those. Like, I don't even, I don't think I could find a book and navigate anymore. But like, that was something in college. I'm doing my reports. I had periodicals and I had to cite everything. They put everything right in the, it's too easy.
Kids are coddled. And
Yeah.
It's the helicopter parent generation where everybody's a winner. It's like, no, it's not how the world works. Sorry. Like, no, like, you're going to face hardship, and, not everybody gets a trophy in the world. And I think that's where things went south. Like, kids have gotten very soft because, and I think it's our generation that caused it. Like, we wanted to insulate our kids.
From
pain.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you show up, you get a trophy. It's like, wow.
Even inconvenience.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, our generation is different. Like, like, I hated to lose growing up, and now kids don't even know what losing is, because if you show up, you get a participation trophy. It's like that. When you get out in the real world, like, that's not how it works. Like, you have to earn your keep, and it's a different world, and they're not well prepared when they come out, unless the parents prepare them.
Like, well, look at AAU ball. Like, I am not against it. Like, I can't afford it. Like, that's something I just couldn't afford it, because it's not that you're just paying for the AAU.
Yes.
You have the weekends away.
I went through it.
And here's the thing, though. Everybody has their child that they're going to be the next major league ball player, or they're going to. And it's like, I get upset because I'm like, what happened to when we just played the neighborhood and like the kids had their summer fun, and it wasn't like,
or
you
best
wanted to
kids
win.
made the team and not the kids that paid the most money.
Yeah, exactly. Because anybody can pay to be on an AAU team. I'm not opposed to AAU, 100%. But it's just so like, what happened to like just the community ball? Like, where it was just, everybody played for fun. They were getting skills. They were like, I missed that.
But there also was a pecking order too. You played based upon your effort and your ability to play.
Yeah.
And I think kids learn valuable lessons that way. I learned that no matter how much I wanted, no matter how much I tried, I was not going to play basketball. Yeah. I mean, I kept getting cut. I kept making the junior team all the time. Yeah. Once in a while, I get close to making a cut, but I wouldn't get it. I realized that, guess what? That's probably not going to be the thing for me. So I found something else. I didn't go crying, and my parents didn't stomp up to the school and demand that I'm put on the basketball team. It wasn't, you weren't good enough. I found the same thing with football. I found baseball. That was my thing. Kids will find and gravitate to what they are, but you got to let them fail at the things that they don't do well, so they can find the thing that they do well.
Yeah. And everybody's like, they might not do a cut, but your kid might not be played, but they're on the team. It's like, how is that
lesson does that
them?
turn? I always laugh. Like, people want to make athletic teams. They say they made the team, and it's okay if I never played a whole year. I just I'm on the team because we want to be inclusionary.
Yeah.
If the kid really has a desire to be there, okay. But the reality, if you step back, that's not teaching them to find their skill set and what they are good at. Because they are good at multiple things, but they got to find it. And sometimes they don't know what it is, and they got to find it. I mean,
how are they going to handle job rejection?
Bingo.
I mean, you get a lot of job rejections, and you're going to think you're perfect.
I'm sure a lot of them are going through trouble right now dealing with that. Every year when they come out, I would imagine there'd be a lot of children dealing with not being able to deal with being rejected for jobs.
They have unreasonable expectations too of what they're worth. It's like,
you don't say.
I mean, I deal with it when I interview people. It's like, you have an unreasonable expectation of how the world works, and it sucks because I know it's my generation that caused it. Like, we insulated our kids and told them they were special. And look, every kid is special in their own way. but that does not mean you're special in the way you think you are.
You're not
gotta
entitled.
Exactly.
You're not
And
entitled. You're special,
but
you're not
so
entitled.
many people have this entitlement mentality, and it's just, and that's why we have this society right now where like everybody's offended by everything. Everything's a problem because people don't have resilience. They can't deal with hardship. They can't deal with not being told they're special every day. And it's like, well, be special. Like, do something that makes you special. You're not just special because you exist.
Well, you have to have pride. You have to have a work ethic. And you have to have pride in what you do. So yeah, you're not going to succeed at everything, but people recognize a strong work ethic.
That's
like,
it.
You
That's
might
all
not,
that matters.
Yeah, because like you adapt, you evolve, you grow, but like there's not a work ethic. There is zero work ethic that I'm seeing.
There doesn't seem to be. It doesn't in today's society. It does not appear that. There is a desire to be personally industrious in anything. I mean, in the beauty of life, I was taught at a young age is what you build, your skill set, your experience, what you create. It's what you build with your own endeavors, whatever that is. That's the beauty of life. And I think that we just give these generations everything because we want to insulate them from inconvenience or from pain or whatever. They're not being set free to find their thing or things, right? And that is a travesty. And I think it's just too easy to say they have no work ethic because you're right. But it's more than that. I mean, I think about being industrious. Like the guitar, one of the reasons that I got out of the guitar business, one of the reasons was because no one is playing the guitar. It started to decline in the 2000s, and there was a video game that adopted a rock star mentality. That kind of put a damper. But the organic, physical nature of the instrument, that what's required to do it, the effort that's required to do it, does not appeal on a broad basis because it's flipping hard.
It is.
It's hard. Doesn't appeal in large swaths anymore because it's hard. It's easier to find a shortcut to do something similar that gives a similar kind of vibe. Meanwhile, the reason I picked up a guitar as a young kid, and I wasn't good at it, but it was because of girls and music, right? It's just a different thing. It's not the personal industrious behavior. I feel is where we're just not inclined to do that with our younger people now, and I don't know why or how we correct that, but. It requires effort. It takes activity, effort, the science of movement, and all that stuff. But that's where I think, and it's certainly bleeding into the workforce.
It definitely is in the workforce because I worked at a company that I remember one of the founders saying, "Oh, this person, I see he's not engaged. Maybe we should buy him a gift certificate or take him out to lunch." And I was like, "Are you
really?"
Yes.
I'm gonna say that tomorrow morning, my staff meeting. People are like, "Get the fuck out of here,
It's
dude."
not happening.
Yeah,
His
exactly.
thought process. This is. I swear to God, his thought process was to reward the underperformer, and I'm sitting there thinking, you have
like a carrot.
These other people who are busting their butt. You're beating them down, and this person who literally puts their feet up on a desk and takes 3-hour lunches. You want to engage him by rewarding him. Well, oh my God. I don't want to perform now because then maybe I'll get rewards and get money thrown at me to do something. But that's, they don't know how to lead.
No,
so
you don't run small business that way, right? I mean, this is more corporate.
But that's the thing we're
right?
losing. No. So it kind of, with the younger generation with sports and whatever, like, we'll put you on the team. So like, great, I can do the bare minimum and I still get the, credibility.
That has always been your point.
And
that's been my point.
That's always
been my point. Yes, absolutely.
And you see now, it still follows into leadership. So why is my company not working? Or why do I have people leaving? And why am I not productive? Well, because you're rewarding people who don't do work to begin with. And you're losing the people who are like committed. And that is, it kind of is a snowball effect. It's starting from here and it's going up.
Austin went to work for FedEx right before the pandemic hit. And it was, his mother had worked there for a long time. So he got this job to work during his first 2 years of college, and he didn't like it. It sucked. It was like start at like 1 a.m. and finish like at 7 a.m. and you're outside kinda unloading packages. And he's already a pretty stocky kid, so he knew that anybody who was slacking off, he was gonna have to pick up But after he complained for 2 weeks, he figured it out. and he kind of liked it, and it was a workout, and you could see he had pride in that, and that made me feel really good because it was not easy work. I wouldn't have liked it. It was pretty brutal, to be honest with you. But he said to me, he goes, Dad, he goes, I just kind of figured it out. I go, it kind of sucks, but I just know that this person's going to do this much and this person's going to do this much, and I can pick up the slack and do that, and it'll be noticed if I go do it. And sure enough, he recognized the system that he was getting noticed for the work.
Yep.
Right? So I mean, their kids are capable of so much, not just physically, but mentally and cognitively and socially. But you just got to put them in positions that may be a little painful at times, but they'll figure it out and take lessons out of that. You know, I mean, I don't know. But again, I'm not saying I'm talking from experience because I did a lot of coddling and I did a lot of insulating of pain and inconvenience. I did all those things, but you know, once you see the error of your ways and you see, oh, that's a better way to parent. I should have been doing this because look what happened when he figured things out on his own.
Yeah, it's I look at parenting. It's difficult, right? But if I leave my kids with anything, it is be kind to everyone and be the hardest worker in the room. That's all I care about.
Yes.
Because like that's what my mom always told me. Like I'm not the smartest, but I will outwork anybody.
Yes.
And it's just sheer grit and determination in life is what it takes. That's it. And if you treat people right and you're kind and you're a good human being, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do cruel shit because we all do that. No one's perfect. But if you try and be kind to most people, to everybody, and just outwork everybody. Like, that's it. Like it's that simple. Like I don't see why people complicate being successful or parenting. It's like just if you teach kids two things, teach them that be kind and work your ass off. That's it. Life gets pretty easy when you figure out that stuff. You don't really have much drama. If you're kind to people, you don't really have much drama. And if you're willing to outwork anybody, you can pretty much have whatever you want. It just takes the work. Like you've got to put in the time and put in the effort. You know, it took me 20 years to get where I am, but like I've just outworked people. Like I'm not the smartest guy there is. I just will outwork somebody. And I try and I've taught Gabe that, and ever since he was a kid, it was the same thing. It's like just be the hardest worker, and that's why when he played football at North Allegheny, like he started as a junior, because he was the smallest offensive lineman, but he just outworked people.
He wanted it.
He worked his ass off, and that's it. And that's why that's why he's going to go to law school. And the girls, same thing. They're just learning that work ethic, and it's I just want to leave. If I leave anything to my kids, that's the legacy. Like, just be kind and outwork everybody.
Yeah, it's like you'd love to be able to bottle desire, right? How can you teach somebody to have desire? And you almost can't. They just got to find it, right? I mean,
you got to put them in the situations that allow them to find it. Again,
yes.
You can't. Again, too many parents try and live vicariously through their kids and say, "Hey,
no,
I wasn't
a
baseball player, but you should be the baseball player." Like, so I'm gonna make, and kids don't like. You got to let them find their passion, and that's. I think when you allow a child to experience things, and like I'll let my kids do anything, and if they want to quit, they can quit at the end of the season. You're not gonna quit. You got to finish it out. Like finish it out. Course. Your team relies on you, but you're gonna try different things, but they've got to find what they love. And that's it. And I think too many parents try and, at least from my perspective, too many parents are trying to relive the things they missed out through their kids. And it's like, let your kids live their lives. Like, that's what you have to do. Let them live the way they want to live, and be their guidepost, be their backstop, but let them experience the world from their perspective. And I think that's how kids find that desire, when you let them do that and you're just behind them, making sure they don't fall down. It's pretty simple, in my opinion.
If you had to do it all over again, let's just say you go back to being 20 again, what would you do differently when it comes to parenting?
Oh, parenting or just being in my 20s? I know a lot of things that were different in my 20s.
That's a whole other show.
That's a different question.
Or do you think it just all happened organically in the way it had to happen, and you really wouldn't change anything? Because I would respect that answer too. It'd be a little bit of a cop-out, but maybe you wouldn't.
I'm a firm believer in destiny, and that you have a path that you have to take. I think that what I do think, because look, my kids didn't get the life that I thought they were going to get with two parents in a home. I had to put the house they loved up for sale, and I had to move them into an apartment that they absolutely hate, and to this day I think still gives them nightmares, and they were only in there for 6 months. I had to reestablish everything. So I mean, probably choosing a partner better would be my first thing, but I think that I needed to, And unfortunately, they had to come on that ride with me. But I think there was lessons that had to be learned. And I think my children had to see me in a strong role as somebody that, wow, look what she's doing. Because in that marriage, I was not viewed as an equal partner. I was not. So my kids were seeing a shell. I was a shell. So I believe that they had to see the ups and downs. I protected them. I mean, I wouldn't say I insulated them, but I protected them from a lot and managed somehow to give them. My kids don't want for anything. Like, I don't take a vacation, but they have that roof over their head. They have, somehow, like, luckily I had savings. I was able to buy a used car because I'm a one-car family. Like, that was unfortunately an unnecessary evil, but somehow I've been able to provide for them. But I think they needed to see that a woman has this uncanny strength that, that's just, I think they had to go through it. I wish they didn't have to go through it with me, but, my son made a comment to me. We were talking about, my house is always a disaster. I have boys that just drop. I mean, my table has book bags on it and everything. Yeah. So, like, my table's never clean. But I remember saying to him, like, I had my house clean and, like, look at all this stuff. And he made a comment like, oh, so-and-so's mom's, a single mom too, and her house is a disaster. It's way worse than this. And I'm like, and then I looked and I said, well, your dad's a single parent. Is his house? And he smirked. And this was such a humbling moment because when he smirked, he said, yeah, but we just sleep there. We live here. And it was like, I accomplished that. Like, it totally, this was like a year ago, and it changed my view. And I'm like, I accomplished what I wanted to do. I wanted them to have a place that they felt safe in, that they felt comfortable in.
They just told you.
Yeah. And he said that, and it was just like, you can have the cleanest house, but that's not what matters to kids. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying be a hoarder. I'm not saying like live in filth.
You're talking to a realtor, believe me, I've seen everything.
But, like, I have a dog with muddy feet. I'm constantly wiping his feet, and things are not going to be perfect. And that's not what the kids want. They want a safe place.
Yeah, they feel safe and feel loved.
Yeah,
So,
and
that's what they want.
And that's all I wanted for them. And so, yeah, I think that, short story, I don't think I could change anything. I think it had to happen the way it did, and they had to go through some struggles too. So,
yeah.
Looking at you.
I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have Gabe at 24 and have my daughters. I think it's, like I could have been better, of course, but that's how you grow. Like, I wouldn't go back and change anything. I would just. No, I really wouldn't. I know that's a cop-out answer, but it's but it really is. Like, because you don't realize the impact you have as a parent, and I wouldn't change. Yeah, like I wouldn't when Gabe wrote that speech about me, is kind of when I realized like I wouldn't change a thing. Like when I think it was his freshman year of college. He had to write a speech about a hero, and he wrote a speech about me, and it's framed and it's on my wall in my office, and it was. Like it was really like it hit me because it's like all these things he thought, because I didn't see him as much as I wanted to, and it was just interesting to see his perspective. Like, I questioned myself as a dad, like, I'm not with him enough, am I making an impact? And just reading that letter, every day I read it. When I go in my office, I just read it almost every single day before I start my day, just to remind myself that I made an impact on him. And I wouldn't change it for anything. Like, I wouldn't. If you said I'll go back and start all over with $100 million in the bank, but you got to change something, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be who I am today if something was different. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
You.
Parenting, I would say, I wish my ego had not been in the way. And
let's unpack that a little bit. So what do you mean by that? So
when you're just raising kids, I wanted everything to be perfect. My house was perfect. The meals were perfect. My kids were always perfect. Everything was perfect. That was my ego. And then the flip side of that is, because I married young, I didn't have a lot of the college dating experience. I just was identifying with, at the time he was older, and I felt like I scored. He was a rock star in our local town, So I was like, I got the cool guy, and I was a nerd, so it was great. But I wish I would have been more solid on teaching my daughters that your value isn't how you look. And it isn't necessarily, having the perfect house and the, so those are my 2 regrets.
That's pretty honest.
Which ego is just insecurity anyway.
Yeah.
Or they're both the same.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if that's like really insecurity, but I think it's just the expectations of what everybody thinks a mom's supposed to do, or how you think the perfect family looks. I don't know if it's insecurity, but like there's those expectations that are put, like if your kid doesn't look this way, or if your kids don't have the clothes, it's, you feel like you're not providing for them.
Who puts that expectation on us, though?
Society. 100%. Society. Like, I mean, look at like Leave It to Beaver. Like, June was home.
I thought you were going to say Beavis and Butthead.
I remember that too. Beavis. But like, Ward came home. He sat in a chair. She served him. She was, sweeping. Like there was this expectation. Like the kids were clean. The house was clean. Dinner was on the table.
Then Eddie Haskell would show up and mess it all up.
And you're trying to live up to that expectation, but you're also a working mom.
Right.
June wasn't working, but I don't think that ever came out of expectation. Like the woman's still working, and she's also still has that housework and all of that she has to complete. So I don't know if that's insecurity.
Well, Mrs. Brady didn't have a job, and she still had a housekeeper.
Yeah, she did.
How'd that work out?
That's because she had 6 kids.
A lot of kids. That's a lot. That's what it is.
Yeah.
No, my ego was, I didn't want my image to be tainted.
Right.
I had a public image.
Yeah.
Who I was, and I had to prove it to my mom and my mother-in-law and my sister and my brother that I was going to be able to manage this young mom thing and have 4 kids and work full time and keep a perfect house, and it was all ego.
And it's hard. It's really hard to do that.
Do you remember a time when you realized that, like, holy shit, this isn't reality?
Yes. It was after my divorce. I was standing in my kitchen here. I'd moved back here because we had moved 15 times, 5 states. It was a lot.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So always not on the run, but basically it felt like we were always just, nothing was enough. We had to grow, we had to build, we had to do. And I remember standing in the kitchen, and my daughter looked at my coffee pot. She goes, it's not immaculate. And she flipped around, she goes, and I adore my ex-husband. He is amazing. He's one of the most amazing men I've ever met in my life. Not meant to be married, but at the time he had high expectations, high goals, always striving. And she turned around, she goes, "You're nothing like Dad, are you?" And I said, "No." She goes, "How come I never knew that?"
Wow.
And I said, "'Cause a good wife never lets you know that."
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it was the concerted front that allowed them to be raised in what they thought was a perfect home.
Yep.
Not, but again, I was able to say, my coffee pot's not scrubbed, clean, sparkling. Because trust me, we were doing baseboards every week. It was a whole thing. I ironed T-shirts. So.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
For
My
a
kids
long
pull their
time.
laundry out of a basket that hasn't been folded yet. It's clean though.
Well, he laughs about it today because, one of our conversations after we did divorce is he goes, "I did laundry." And I looked at him and was like, "You're 52, nobody cares." He had never done it before. That just gives you an indication. So,
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think you can. There's plenty of whys in the road that I could have gone left or right. That I went left, I probably could have gone right, and vice versa. I could write for days and give you all those, but in the end, I'd like to be wealthy and living on the beach somewhere right now, but that wasn't part of the reality either, and I don't think that I could have. I don't know. I wouldn't change anything, even the very difficult times, because I look around this room and everything on the wall, selfishly for me, is kind of like a particular memory of a certain event. And I'm thinking, and this only happened in 10 years. So, I've been pretty lucky on the professional front, and from being involved in a coal industry and being able to raise my kids in their formidable years in that time. So for me to sit and pick out moments of failure and raising them would be kind of like, you cannot have it all. You got to take the good with the bad. And I used to think that being a single father was a failure, like a personal failure. That's how I felt. It was maybe relationship guilt that I had, the ending of the first marriage, mistakes I had made, or now that maybe I had put my kids in this very terrible circumstance of like, oh my gosh, they're going to school now, and they're in a situation of divorce. That was mitigated a bit when I realized that over half of the kids my parents were going to school with were divorced. So that, my baby boomer viewpoint of divorce was definitely changed by the mid-2000s. But once I think I started to be a little kinder to myself, we talked about this on a radio program, I was willing to give myself a little grace, or also maybe console myself the same way I would console a friend who came to me with a problem. I'd be very empathetic, and if someone came to you with a bad problem, you know how you would treat your friend, and even if you didn't believe half the things you were saying, because they were a louse maybe, but you would be very empathetic. You would console them. I wasn't able to do that with my own self, and until I figured that out, everything was kind of sucked. I was pretty beat myself up as a parent, in my opinion of myself as a parent. But after I was willing to let things go and realize that the kids were really like these cool little kids, and other parents were saying, "Oh, your kids are amazing," and I started thinking, he didn't get that way by accident. There's two concerted parents in here. They're not married, but they're very friendly and they're working together. There's something valuable there. Yeah. And I think that, I only say that because I'm sure there's a lot of parents, and I can only speak from the male side, that are single parents, single dads. I know some of them, and they may be having issues that they feel like a failure, or they feel like they've disappointed their child, or they have, somehow not given them the perfect, stable life. And all I'm here to tell you is, I don't think my kids really gave a shit about where we lived, the houses we had, going to Chuck E. Cheese, none of that shit. I really think that they wanted to hang out with me all the time. And it took me years to finally figure that out. Really, it took me a couple of years to say, hey, look, they really don't give a shit about any of this stuff. Even the stuff I try to lavish on them. They just want to go do stuff. And they want to do stuff. And I think that, to get your point, we opened up the show with that, putting time with your children at the forefront, because how necessary it is. I really believe that's, especially when they're very young, that's all they really want.
Yeah.
And it just took me, and the numbskull I am, it just took me a while to figure that out. And I wish I would have been able to do that differently. Maybe got my brain a little earlier in the process. But damn, I said, I agree with you. You can't change anything. I wouldn't change, because every bad decision led to something amazing on this wall.
Yeah, I mean,
or some amazing experience with my children, or meeting, my second wife or my third wife, or anything that's happened to me, and gaining these stepchildren, and my family growing, all that stuff. None of that happens in the way that I enjoy it today if things were different.
Well, every failure is like a redirection. It's
for sure.
I don't think failing's an accident either. It's like, this isn't where you're supposed to be, but we have to take the step back to get you to where you are supposed to be.
It's learning. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's definitely every failure. It's you kind of have to embrace it. You have to embrace those things and be like, okay, I can fix it though. I can rewrite this. I can, it's up to me. Where I go from here. And
did you have any any guilt about being a divorced parent at all? Did you ever think about that? I don't mean guilt's a heavy word to use. I had lots of guilt because I just didn't understand my role or what I was doing. I had to kind of figure it out, and I didn't have any divorced friends that I could kind of lean on and watch what they were doing. I just by happenstance didn't have any, so I really was out on this island by myself.
Well, that's where I started. I came from a community that people aren't divorced. I was probably one of the first ones that I knew. And then it was funny because I'm a firm believer in sharing my story.
Right.
I'm open with, what was happening. Well, then all of a sudden there's more women and their stories were very similar to mine. And now there's this whole community that we have and that of all these divorced women. And, but I didn't have that at first. I didn't feel guilty. I felt I was saving myself and my children from something that I didn't want. So I never felt guilty about it. It wasn't enjoyable. I had a very high conflict divorce, but I don't think I ever felt guilty because I didn't take it lightly when I made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I said, I just want a divorce. I'm just not happy. It wasn't. It was a long process before that decision was made. So I didn't feel guilty.
Yeah, I certainly did feel guilty because you do want to preserve that life for your children. You want that stable home where they always come home for Christmas. That's the ideal. And then you get to the place where it's not possible. And there's tons of mourning, tons of, and I'm proud to say that we have worked through asking forgiveness and giving forgiveness as recently as a year ago. My ex-husband, all 4 of my kids in one room, tears, hugging, just, we want to be that family who can move forward. And that's the beauty of it. But many, many years of certainly feeling like I disappointed my kids.
I think it's probably symptomatic of the generation that raised us that we feel that way. Now, the reason I say that is divorce is so common now that maybe the generation after us, when they go through it, they're not going to have the same, I don't know. I wouldn't think they might not be inclined to feel the same way about it. But I do think that every circumstance is different. It's hard to make a lump sum evaluation of the concept of divorce, for sure. And, like you said, everything happens for a reason. It's part of the tapestry of your life, and every left is left for a reason. Every right is right for a reason, and things happen because of it. But I don't know. Did you have fun?
I loved it.
Yeah,
deep, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Was it okay? Was it natural? Was it fun?
Yeah, no, it was. But like now, I'm like, I don't want to listen to it because I'm like, I don't know what I said in that moment. And like, oh, what did I say?
Nah, it was great. It was great. No, it was great. And that's and again, this what I try to do here, which is, I know it sounds like a broken record, but I'll say it again, is folks from different walks of life having real conversations about life. And sometimes they're groundbreaking and sometimes they're not, but there's commonality in shared experiences. And the feedback we've gotten on this from this show from people that just buy in and want to pay attention and watch is they find commonality. They find similar stories. There's a common thread through it all. And I wish we were if we still were talking with each other, these types of shows wouldn't exist. But society is such that everything is a text or a screen of some kind, and we're just breaking that down. But it takes a lot for someone to come and share and be so unvarnished like that, and I want to thank you two especially. I know he can do it with his eyes closed.
Well, you know what, that cracked my heart open to hear about Rocco carrying this little boy into law school. Like, my heart just went, I mean, it just opened. And I thought, oh my, I didn't know that about you.
I didn't know that. I can't, normally don't hear about the dad taking the babies. Normally, like the mom who's like, oh my God, I'm frazzled. And to still get your law degree, because getting a law degree is no easy task.
But that was probably going to be my last thought is, what I determined after my divorce is no one benefits if I quit.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to be better than I've ever been.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me.
We'll do it again, a little deep.
Thank you.
There was a lot of comedy too, but it went a little deeper than I thought. But it's great because that's the good stuff, right?
Definitely.
I thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll do it again.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely.
Friends, we're out.
He survives.